morning fishing on the lake. The distant gurgle of a stream reminds you of days spent playing in the creek, the cool, clear water rushing between your toes. You love this time with nature, the feeling of putting everything on hold to connect with the world around you. Now, imagine it's all gone. No fish, no lake, no water. One of life's most vital resources, irreplaceably depleted. Time is running out to protect fresh water, and without our love, it can and will disappear. It's our choice. Love it or lose it. Help protect our fresh water. Visit World Wildlife Fund at wwf.org/love.
This is Senior Corps. 360,000 volunteers age 55 and older, driving results through service, helping communities recover from devastating disasters.
RSVP plays a valuable role. They're still here helping the unmet needs of the community and the survivors of the devastation.
Making sure that those who need assistance can remain in their own homes.
If I didn't have a senior companion, I would be really lost.
Tutoring and mentoring tomorrow's leaders.
The advantage of having foster grandparents working with the children one-on-one, that's a tremendous benefit.
Visit nationalservice.gov or call 1-800-942-2677. This message brought to you by the Corporation for National and Community Service.
NBC News Radio, I'm Dina Kodiak. Officials are identifying the victims of this morning's deadly shootings in a Pennsylvania township north of Philadelphia.
He shot and killed his 52-year-old stepmother, Karen Gordon, and his 13-year-old sister, Kara Gordon, who lived at the residence. There were 3 other individuals at the residence, including a minor, inside the home who were able to hide and avoid being shot.
At an afternoon news conference, Bucks County District Attorney Jen Shorn said the 27-year-old Andrew Gordon then broke into another residence in Levittown, where he shot 25-year-old Taylor Daniel, the mother of his 2 children. The DA said Gordon also bludgeoned the woman's mother with an assault rifle, but she is expected to recover. Shorn added that Daniel's 2 children were inside the residence at the time. The shelter-in-place that had been issued in Bucks County earlier today has been lifted. Mike Pence is not backing his old boss for president.
I cannot, in good conscience, endorse Donald Trump in this campaign.
The former VP said Trump does not promote the same conservative values they pushed during their 4 years together. While he would not say who he's voting for, he said he absolutely will not vote for President Biden. The White House backs a bill that could ultimately ban TikTok in the U.S. Brian Shook reports.
Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said it's important to understand where American data is going. She called on the Senate to swiftly take up the bill that passed the House this week. The legislation that would force Chinese-owned ByteDance to divest in the popular social media app received overwhelming bipartisan support.
Spring is getting warmer across the U.S. That's according to a recent analysis from Climate Central, which found that average springtime temperatures have gone up to 2.2 degrees Fahrenheit in nearly 230 cities since 1970. The Climate Research Group says warmer temperatures in the springtime can have a ripple effect and cause longer allergy seasons, earlier snowmelt, and changes in agricultural growing seasons. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio.
WCPT Willow Springs is powered by the ComEd Energy Efficiency Program, partnering with your business to save money and energy.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-200-1966. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-200-1966. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-200-1966, 800-200-1966, or biglou.com.
This is WCPT 820, where facts matter.
The following program, Collaboration Radio, is sponsored by Collaboration, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Everybody. You can keep it playing under me. Yeah, just keep it going. That's DJ Lady D, the queen of Chicago house music. Our Collaboration's board president. Go listen to her episode from a few days ago. It's we're celebrating St. Patrick's Day here in Chicago. I told my daughter, if you see a bunch of people wearing green and they ain't walking in a straight line, give them at least 10 feet on the sidewalk. Because they got at it early this morning.
That's all right.
Welcome to Collaboration Radio. We are here at the intersection of art, activism, and social change. It's the Six Corners. WCPT 820 AM, Chicago's progressive talk radio. Thank you for joining us live, also streaming live on Facebook and YouTube and WCPT.com, and available in the very near future wherever you get your podcasts. I am Anthony Mosley, and I'm here with Meida McNeal today.
Hello.
Hi, Meida. Very excited to get into it with Meida. She's wearing green.
I am. What? I didn't even.
Stop it.
I was and my jacket is.
Oh,
and I guess
wow.
there's some. Look, I did not intentional.
I went to the University of Notre Dame, and many people don't know that I have a tattoo of a leprechaun on my upper thigh. So I don't have to wear green on St. Patrick's Day because I have a leprechaun tattooed onto my thigh. So it will never go away. And I've thought about adding other icons of my history. And then I always just said, you know what? Once you have the second tattoo, then next thing you know, you have 50.
Yeah, my son is currently...
On that.
He got the bug, yeah.
Yeah. So I just figured, thank you for joining us, everyone. This is like episode 37, I believe, which is very exciting. 38. And, we've had some amazing people. Let me tell you who we've had on this radio show, which you can go listen to on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or see the video. Hi, video. You say hi to your video camera.
Oh, hey.
Hey. Our first guest was Tracy D. Hall.
Oh, love her.
And then we had Mario Smith and Geronimo Speak. In the beginning, we used to have like an artist spotlight and a guest, and then we realized like that was just putting too much in it. But we had Geronimo Speaks. Do you know Geronimo Speaks?
I don't.
One of the best spoken word artists in Chicago. And then we had Honey West. Erica Durham, Coco Elisis. You know Coco, right?
Okay.
The president of the AACM.
Yep.
She plays the diddly bow and the conga. She's an amazing human. We had Phenom, also known as Teray Hale. We had Pinky Ring, Akeisha Lee. We had some Youth from the Light. Dr. Marcus Robinson did the whole show on August 28th. We had Gabriella Furtado Coutinho and Gerald Pierce of American Theater Magazine. We had Jasmine Cardenas and Elsa Hiltner, Pilar Audain, Maisha Tiara, Jorge Valdivia, Xavier Custodio, We had Jamie Calvin and Johannes LaCour from Invisible Institute. And they have an amazing podcast. What's it called? It's about the young boy that got beat up in Bridgeport back in the day. It's a great podcast. We had Martine Green Rogers, the dean of the theater school of DePaul. We had Sandra Delgado and Satya Chavez, Lauren Wells-Mann, Yuri Lane, Melissa Dupre and Flaco Navaja, Lonnie Edwards and Eric Williams, Nicholas Tremulous. We did an Old Colonizer special with Carla Stillwell right around Thanksgiving. Sandra Delgado was on as a full guest on December 6th. Firekeeper Loretta Hawkins, a Kenya, amazing musician, singer, musical director. My brother Sammy Rangel, who's an amazing human, former executive director of Life After Hate. We did a 3-year anniversary of the insurrection with 2 people that were at the insurrection. And the stuff they told us was chilling. One was a professor and one was a photographer, and they were there to document and be there. Pugs Adams, Brill Barrett, Mr. Mad Rhythms, and he did some tap dancing.
New award, yeah.
What's that?
He just got some new award. Can't remember what it is, but yeah.
He's amazing. He did some tap dancing. I forgot to ask if you want to do a little performance for us today.
No, I'm not performing. I'll talk.
We can turn come on.
That's my performance.
We turn the lights down low. Don't you have some fabric in there? We can conjure up the ancestors.
This is my weekend rest time, so.
That was a no.
You get the chat, the theatrical chat.
You're performing right now. Look at you.
That's right.
Maybe we'll do some abstract chatting.
Perhaps.
Vasil, who was on Eurovision representing Macedonia. Yeah. Incredible. The amazing David Cherry, who his father was friends with Malcolm X, and Malcolm X used to come over his house when he was a little guy. Oran Kenyatta, poet and activist. Tanika Johnson. Did I say Dilla? Dilla was on. Did I skip Dilla? Okay. We did the desegregating Chicago bus trip a couple weekends ago. People should check that out.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah. DJ Lady D, Maria Pike, Miranda Gonzalez, and now Meida McNeal. So we are collecting these 58 minutes with some amazing Chicagoans who are committing their whole life to art and change. And we're going to be getting into it shortly. Collaboration Radio is sponsored by the Joseph and Bessie Feinberg Foundation and donors and members like you. Email info@collaboration.org or go to collaboration.org to learn more. Consider maybe buying an ad or being a sponsor. If you have some product that you want to give away, maybe we can even do that for our listeners. We're also sponsored by Ethos Collective. Ethos Event Collective is an amazing purpose-driven destination and event management company. And they will create authentic experiences that align with your goals, delight your audience, and generate impactful outcomes. So if you are somebody who is leaning into humanity and you have a budget to do a thing, some destination management, if you have a bunch of foreign dignitaries or European corporate types coming to town and you need to throw the perfect $600,000 lunch, call ethoseventcollective.com. Who is Collaboration, you say? Well, we are a 27-year-old nonprofit. Our mission is to build knowledge, empathy, dialogue, and action. We call that KEDA. K-E-D-A. Maybe that's the tattoo I should get. To leverage the power of theater, film, and radio to inspire positive social change. We have some news and updates, and I'm going to plug some stuff that's going on. First of all, this week, it was announced that as part of the 20th anniversary celebration of Millennium Park, there's going to be a ton of amazing things happening. Mm-hmm. It's really going to be loaded summer over there in Millennium Park. And Collaboration and Teatro Vista are just super honored to have been selected as a part of a Millennium Park residency to be presenting, along with DCASE in Millennium Park, the return of La Habana Madrid. Sandra Delgado's smash hit show. Have you seen it?
I have not. Yeah, I've seen little clips of it, but I have not seen it.
You haven't been in the room when it happened?
No, I gotta do it. Yep.
August 23rd.
Yep.
Bring your blanket and your food, or come early and sit in the 4,000 seats. Directed by Chicago legend Cheryl Lynn Bruce, featuring the playwright herself, Sandra Delgado, fronting a 5-piece salsa cumbia band and telling the story of this once forgotten nightclub in Lakeview, La Habana Madrid, which went on to become a nightclub known as the Quiet Night, which was a very famous kind of soft rock place, like the kind of place Jackson Brown would go play in the 70s, and James Taylor and Jimmy Buffett. When Sandra was working on the show, if you Googled Quiet Night, you would find 100 listings. And if you Googled La Habana Madrid, you would find nothing. Yeah. White folks in the media did not care about this nightclub, so it was not archived. So Sandra went and interviewed about 30 people, and she brought the club back to life. And now we're going to be bringing it back to Millennium Park on August 23rd, which is really cool because it's the Friday. It's the day after the Democratic National Convention. And so while the nation's Democratic leaders and representatives and electoral college folks will be in town in Chicago the day after it's over in Chicago's front yard, we'll be telling a story that is very relevant to our current new arrivals, most of them from Latin countries. Yeah. And so we're hoping that the show will remind us all that unless you were an indigenous American or your family was kidnapped Africans, you were probably an immigrant too at one point. Your family came here and had to find their way. And we have a lot of folks here, and they just got here, and they just made it through their first winter. And we hope they will join us also. We will have Spanish subtitles, and all the music is in Spanish, and about 90% of the dialogue is in English. But La Habana Madrid, that's a big announcement. So we're super stoked. And Meida is not only one of the founders, and what's your title with Honeypot Performance?
Artistic and managing director, but it's still a collective at heart. We've got titles and things now, but we still share decision making and visioning together. So
we're going to talk about Honeypot because they are a really unique and special artistic collective here in Chicago. And Meida also works with the Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events for the city of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And prior to that appointment, she was with the Park District.
That's right.
So she really knows the city and the arts, and we're gonna get into it. A couple other things going on. My friend John Yost is head of Rhythm Evolution. You know John?
He also worked in the park.
Yes. So I don't.
Amazing.
He is amazing, dude.
Yeah,
I mean,
the drum circles.
Yeah. Well, his new nonprofit just got a grant to start a drum line at McKay School on the southwest side, and the lead teacher will be Jamie Poindexter from Chaotic Drumline. So, thanks to John and Jamie and Rhythm Evolution, Chicago just got a new drum line.
That's awesome.
Can we just get some snaps for John Yost?
That is amazing. I'm with you on that.
He's also doing 18 free drum circles with nights out in the parks all over the city this summer. And, his goal is to do 77 neighborhoods, each with their own groove and rhythm. So you live in, is it okay if I tell people what neighborhood you live in?
Absolutely.
I know there's a lot of paparazzi looking for you, and you have security cameras and stuff. What is the rhythm of Albany Park where you live? Can you go ahead and just give us the rhythm of Albany Park?
Yeah, so, I've lived
No, I'm talking about rhythm.
What?
Like drum noises, like beatbox. What does?
Oh, you actually want some sounds?
Oh! I forgot you're not performing. Well, I
give it to you like this.
Okay.
One of the reasons I have come to love Albany Park is because, it is both dense. It is both super dense. So it is a lot of super dense everywhere, right? But then it also has incredible green space. I live on a block where sometimes in the summer, I'm going to see deer coming down my block, which is crazy. And that's kind of shh, So I've come to love that, and I feel like I'm in the city, but I'm not when I'm in my neighborhood. So, yeah, you got a little performance, okay?
Well, and there's so many languages.
Yes, it is.
You got a lot of languages in Albany Park.
Diverse, yeah.
I live in Portage Park, and the rhythm of Portage Park. I'm trying to think if I should stay away from a joke about all the police that live in Portage Park. I think that the rhythm is something like this. Portage Park.
Okay. All right.
So John Yost, way to go. Also, John Mossman has a film that is, John Mossman is a Chicago theater dude and filmmaker. And he has a new film that has just come out. And it is available. It's called Good Guy with a Gun. And it examines gun culture in all of its complex and scary tendencies. And it's was shot with a lot of Chicago talent. David Pasquazi's in it, and it's a nuanced examination of gun culture via the backdrop of a fractured Midwestern family. And guns aren't going away. They're not going away. What is going away, thanks to people like Maria Pike and Moms Demand Action and Wear Orange, is anybody being able to get an assault rifle. But guns aren't going away. We can't just close our eyes. We have to understand more closely why people want guns and how we can convince folks to lock up your gun. I don't have a gun. Do you have a gun?
No.
I've never fired a gun. My dad was in Vietnam, and I consider myself a secondary PTSD survivor, so I'm just like, but if you have a gun, make sure you have a secure storage for your gun. A place that can be locked and nobody can just go grab your gun, whether it's in your car or it's in your house or it's at your job. That's all. We got to destigmatize having tough conversations around locking up your guns because too many accidents happen. We already got a problem with using these guns, but let's lock them up. So Good Guy with a Gun is now available on Amazon and a bunch of other places. Apple TV, Vudu, YouTube, Dish. So check that out. And also, there's a little fundraiser coming up that looks pretty great. April 6th at Sketchbook Brewing in Skokie. Bienvenidos a casa. An evening in support of our new neighbors. Traditional Venezuelan dinner from La Cochinita and live music The raffle prizes. This is money to raise to get stuff for our new migrant families that have arrived. Things like new underwear and diapers and soap and sweatpants and backpacks and strollers. So that looks like a pretty cool thing to do. April 6th at Sketchbook Brewing Company. Shout out. Wait for it. Jessica Siegel for putting that together. So if you're listening and you're on the north side of the North Shore, go check that out, April 6th. And those are my plugs for today. I want to encourage everybody, once again, to think about becoming a Collaborativist member for only $1 a month. You can be part of, you can support the work we do, you can become a member, and you can get all kinds of perks, access, and connections. So, Meida Teresa McNeal is artistic and managing director of Honeypot Performance. She received her PhD in performance studies at Northwestern and her MFA in choreography and dance history at Ohio State. Awards include an Illinois Arts Council Fellowship in New Performance Forms, Field Foundation's Leaders for a New Chicago, 3 Arts Award in Dance, Chicago Dance Makers Forum, and the Lynx Hall Co-Missions Fellowship. An independent artist and scholar at the intersection of performance studies, dance, and critical ethnography. Meida also teaches at University of Chicago and Columbia College, and Meida works with the Chicago Department of Cultural Affairs and Special Events Executive Administrative Team as the Senior Manager of Arts and Community Impact Investment, building and implementing artist recovery programs and creative placemaking, grant-making initiatives. And, you know, without the support of DCASE, Collaboration would not be where we are right now. And before the pandemic, and DCASE really threw us a life raft during the pandemic. Yeah. And so, in a way, you know, this very show is connected to the work of DCASE. And I have a feeling that your input in the room really made a difference for the companies that maybe, you know, aren't the biggest, shiniest company, but that do great work. And we got to meet and do a little work together back at the Sketchbook Festival.
That's right.
Welcome to Collaboration Radio. Thank you so much for coming. Man, you're smarty pants, huh? Your resume, jeez.
I like to think. I like to build. I like to make. I like to work with people. Yeah.
So how did, you know, in the Marvel superhero about Meida, tell everybody, what's your origin story? How it started as far back when you were as little, as tiny as possible. How did you become this, you know, very conscientious, culturally connected maker, advocate, administrator? I'll stop there.
Gotcha. Yeah, well, thank you for having me here today. I'm you know, honored to be part of this conversation series, and love the guest list I heard earlier. Good company. So yeah, I'm a native-born Chicagoan, and I was born on the West Side. Family is from East Garfield Park, from the Fifth City neighborhood in particular, and I think my first memories really are of Fifth City and going to the preschool there. And the Fifth City preschool, we had uniforms that were red and black, and they had this emblazoned symbol of an Iron Man, this steel sculpture that's standing like this, and there's a sculpture that was put into the neighborhood in the 60s when this kind of radical community development experiment began, where residents and folks from the Ecumenical Institute got together and decided they were going to try to solve their own problems, right? And get together and have like community meetings all the time, develop what might be called like block clubs today, and then built this whole infrastructure, including the preschool. And so I actually did a solo performance project about that, and kind of archiving work that also mixed kind of memoir, my own family's history braided. And it really had me thinking a lot about, like, as I dug deeper into Fifth City's history, I was like, the values behind it scream everything that I do today. And so, like, that was like, you know, embedded in me from being young, right? To kind of think about intimate scale, like what do we do with the people who are around us, who are we are connected to make our environments better? How do we invest in the places that we are from and make them better, even when there are lots of structures and things, forces externally that are trying to tear us apart. And so I feel like that has continued in all of the work I do. The way that Honey Pot became it arose as friendships into a collective and now an organization, but it's still built off of the values and the principles of people coming together and making decisions together, reaching consensus, about what we want to make and build together. Yeah, that came from from my youth days, and watching my parents organize. My mom was a teacher, taught at Faraday for many years in that neighborhood. My dad went to Marshall High School, and then my mother went to teach in other schools around the city. And I always saw her giving herself sometimes, selflessly, and sometimes to the point where I would be jealous, like, I want your attention, and so really, parents were always about community, and I feel like that is kind of just followed in the path that I've taken.
And I'm going to be neurotic for a minute. Will you just open up a little bit to the camera? I want to make sure. I told you to look at me, but yeah,
Gotcha.
you can handle it.
Yeah, no
you got a
problem.
PhD. I mean, you can play the room. So, who were the first big artistic influences on you? Who were the first people that you really said you were gravitated to, and you were like, wow?
My first creative memory is the movie Fame. And Leroy. Yeah. So
wait, Leroy
in the movie,
oh, okay.
The dancer.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, I mean, I think that I was fascinated with performance even as a young person, and I remember I wrote a lot as a kid. I think I thought first I was going to be a writer. So I remember meeting like Gwendolyn Brooks at the library, as a kid, and being inspired by her. And I wrote a lot of poetry. There was a kind of citywide competition thing that I had, work in that anthology, and wrote for the New Expressions paper, which was part of Gallery 37, the original. Me and I think all my friends, everybody came through Gallery 37, as kids. So I also danced at Joseph Holmes Dance Theater, which was on, it's kind of a precursor to Deeply Rooted. And that was a multicultural dance company, modern dance company that was in Pilsen on 18th and Halsted. And so from, junior high on, I would go there after school and train in ballet and modern and other forms. And that's where I picked up, I think, an interest in choreography and wanting to make dances.
Well, in Honey Pot very much is a hybrid poetry dance movement, but with
all things, yeah,
with a deep kind of resonant spirituality. I feel,
rituals at the heart. Yeah.
And tell us a little bit about. Well, first of all, why the name Honey Pot?
So we worked together and made together for have for over 20 years, right? So we've had many iterations, and we were first Thick Roots Performance Collage. So always about layers and intersections of folks coming together to tell their stories, to collect other people's stories, and figure out what can we make, And then we kind of went away for a little while and got back together and started a women's weekly creative making circle called Ladies Ring Shout, and that became a work. And out of that, we decided, okay, we want to keep making again. And now what's the new entity? At that time, I was also really digging into kind of African-centered spiritualities. And the image that came to me was of honey and of hands and of women of many generations. And so that's where Honey Pot Performance.
And Ladies Ring Shot, I believe that was the title of the first piece you did at Sketchbook.
We did a scene from there.
Yeah.
Yep. So that is true. Yeah.
And what's going on now with Honey Pot Performance? What's coming up? Where can people get in the room?
Yeah, so we became a nonprofit in 2018, and have been kind of building, what the new entity is, right? So we are still centered in making kind of long form performance works. All of them continue to have a period where we decide a theme, a question, or something, and then we make with people. We design experiments, ways of kind of storytelling and doing other kinds of creative things together to build the information or data of the work, and then we make the work. And then now we also try to build something that love performance, love the ephemerality of performance, find the incredible power in that, but also feel like we want to marry that with what do we create that has substance, that continues, that lives on after that. I think also because we are very conscious of the need to be in the in the historical register, right? And that if we don't do it for ourselves, no one else will do it for us, right? We're not the ones as Black women that typically get enshrined in history, right? And we understand that. And so we have done things like create books, and we have a digital and online archive and map of Chicago Black social culture that built out of a performance work that was about house music and its connections to Black social culture before it, right? From the Great Migration forward, because we all felt house music had something that was older than, itself, right? And so that has become its own thing. It's kind of like, so it's developed in kind of like another arm of the institution, right? So we've got the performance, we've got kind of public humanities work, right, which that archiving work is part of, and conversations and building new cultural knowledge and preservation, right, about our stories, the things we've done to build our communities through culture. And then we are also beginning to think more intentionally about supporting other artists and offering opportunities to develop works, that are aligned with our vision and mission. As of the beginning of this year, we have started to move into the First Church of the Brethren, who we've been partnering with for several years through several projects. And this is the deepest one yet, that we are now going to be space partners at First Church of the Brethren, that is in Garfield Park in Fifth City, off the corner of Central Park and Congress, right? And so we have always been kind of itinerant. And so now we're really excited about this year. Will be the first year that the lion's share of our programming will run at First Church and be more embedded in West Side community.
Beautiful. Do you have any upcoming dates where me and my listeners can come out and get steeped in the vibe?
Yeah. Several things coming up. So we're going to have kind of an open house welcome party on Saturday. I think it's Saturday, April 13th. And we will have our first Chicago Black Social Culture Map program of the year on Saturday, May 18th. We will be performing Ladies Ring Shout at Northwestern at the Chicago campus, Abbott Hall, in late June. So, and then we'll be developing our newest project called Pleasure Power Portal. That'll start from July on. So the rest of the year will be kind of the things that we do in public with people to just generate things.
Pleasure Power Portal?
Yes.
What's that about? The power of pleasure?
Yeah, I think we are thinking about how do, in particular, Black folks, right, think about pleasure as a space of power, as a place of transformation and resilience and and we're thinking about it from the spectrum of what is pleasure, right? And I think one of the things we want to tease out is how is pleasure different from joy, and it feels like it has a different kind of grit and texture to it, so we are really excited about that work and thinking about how we're going to dig into that work and what the performance experiments will be. I think we're thinking about there's been a lot of interest in working with different kind of groupings of people. So maybe we're working with young people and thinking about their notions of pleasure, or senior folks and or a group of Black women, and kind of then building that as what will be the content of what the work is going to be in 2025. So yeah.
We're here with Meida McNeal of Honey Pot Performance and D-Case Cultural Maker. And if you want to call in, you can do so at 773-763-WCPT. That's 773-763-9278 if you have a question or a comment for Meida. Chicago. From your perspective, what is Chicago's greatest cultural asset and our greatest cultural weakness, or the thing we need to work on the most?
Cultural asset. I mean, there are so many. I think right now, though, what I'm thinking about, while this is coming to the fore, I'm not Sure, but so I'm not going to, it is not the greatest, but it is the one I'm thinking about right now. And so I'm going to say, teaching artists and kind of people who are, actively using their art and creative forms to kind of work with other communities and other people to learn or do something or process something, because I think it's this aspect of labor that gets that is hidden and doesn't have much or any protections behind it, right? I've been a teaching artist. I've been a program manager working with teaching artists. I'm right now building a program that is around artists who are being trained and certified as community health workers at Malcolm X College, and are doing apprenticeships for the whole year at city mental health centers. And so thinking about how they learn the skill set of a community health worker and kind of merge that with what I think are many similar, synergistic skills of kind of thinking about how to support people, help people kind of articulate and locate their needs and address those and find the resources they need to thrive, to move on to whatever that is next. So I think that group of people is such a core part of Chicago, but doesn't get its due.
Yeah, because in our very racist, classist TV, film, theater, art culture, it's not cool.
That's sexy in many ways.
Thank you. I was trying not to say it. You could say it. I can't say it.
But it is to me,
But being a teaching artist.
Yeah, just watching, the choreography, if you will, of all the things that they have to put together to think about. It's like an educator in a classroom, right?
Yeah.
It's a performance in many ways, right? And you got to do a lot of work before you get to that point of contact with people, and then to do the learning or the healing or the whatever is going to happen in that moment of co-presence, Yeah, because you're not going to get rich and famous, and you're going to be working with a lot of trauma, and you're going to be impacting young people who will be making work for probably past your time. Right.
And so it is so important as a cultural worker to have strong teaching artists. And, that's what people don't realize about Chicago. There are so many people in their neighborhoods committing their whole life to their city, to just making it better than they found it.
Yep.
And it gets completely overlooked, the thousands of people who are literal heroes to their block and their neighborhood. And
that's the solution right there. All the investment needs to go there.
Yeah.
Because those people know what they're doing in their neighborhoods. They know what the problems are.
Yeah.
Right? And we're still not at the point where we're doing what we need to do. We're doing what we need to do.
Trickle down arts funding doesn't work.
No.
It doesn't work. And you know what? The people at the top, at the big institutions, they have no clue. A lot of them didn't come from here, and they're just not close enough to the ground and the people. I mean, I've said it probably 10 times on the show. I love Englewood. It's my favorite neighborhood because the people are out. There are so many leaders, Shelley Rashad, Tanika Johnson, Aisha Butler, the folks at Iman. I could go on, and we've made some documentaries about them. But
Anton Seals, Grow Greater, right?
Yeah, Fatal. I mean, it's just there's so many. It's like you could, and who are the community organizers and the people that are really invested in the community of Lincoln Park? I don't know. Are they there? I think so. Maybe they're not, but they're not like they are at Englewood. And what is our greatest weakness?
That we don't invest in people power the way we should, and because I think that was one of the gifts of working in the parks. I mean, I think that's another place that just people overlook it for like all of what it does, like these hidden, and we've got a park system like no other. Yeah. Right. To have like, over 5 or almost 600 parks. I mean, now as I get further away from it, all the stats are getting fuzzier. But yeah, I believe we have 600 parks or so. And then almost like over 250 field houses that have programs and people in them, right? That are these third spaces, right? The free civic spaces for people to be able to access, right? But it's an infrastructure that, again, doesn't get the support that it should have, right? To be able to do the work that it could do to support communities and, access to these spaces. So I think that is our...
Oh, and the people that work at the Park District, and the supervisors, are... And the supervisors, many of them in a way are teaching artists, and maybe they're more into sports, some of them. but man, sports and art, you take the A out of STEAM and you have these schools that are just not fun. Like I forget who it was, but I think it was Maria Pike. We were just really talking about all these STEM schools, and people kind of like they get all excited that they got a STEM school because science and math and all that. If you don't have sports and arts to balance out the science and the math, right? You
gotta be a whole person.
Yeah, you gotta be. Yeah. And but. Collaboration has had the great honor to tour with Nights Out in the Park every year since it opened. Yeah. And except for the Nights Out in the Park was closed for the pandemic. And another Englewood shout out, the amazing Hamilton Park is one of my favorite parks in the city.
Yeah, like it's an incredible way to learn a city. Like I think, I didn't know Albany Park in the way and really at all until I began working in the parks and then being at Eugene Field, right? Just like Open and River Park opened up. This too is part of the city, right? And it feels completely different than other parts, right?
What else is on your heart these days?
That is a big old question.
Yeah, well, I only got one chance here with you.
Yeah, I guess
we got a lot from the brain, and we'll do the heart, and then we'll talk about the gut.
Yeah, I guess like archiving, like that. I have been thinking a lot about how. That permeates a lot of whatever this chapter of my life is really over the past I don't know, maybe 5 years ago moving forward, or maybe longer than that. Sorry, about 10 years. It's really been a significant part. I think I've always been interested in cultural history to some degree and how we, the things that we string together to tell a story and then to cement that and then be like, that's the thing that happened, right? And that's what we're going to remember. But have been really thinking about archiving as this practice of, how do we take oftentimes things that look like, does that have any meaning at all? It's very mundane. Or how is that connected to anything of importance? People's photos or flyers or programs or fashion or, whatever. But like those things too are embedded with stories. And when you put them together, right, can weave really incredible stories that tell you things that might be outside of like the dominant narratives of things, and so I found that to be an incredibly fruitful and like spiritually fulfilling, healing place for like my own personal story, history of my family, and for the when I think about Garfield Park in Fifth City and like what it looks like now, and what I know is part of like its history, and that people were really gathering together and building all these resources. Like what they did was amazing, that there was it was one of the first federally funded preschools, continues to run, was studied by like Sesame Street in the early days. Those people bought buildings and like had affordable housing. They had a legal clinic. They had a community center. They had a grocery store. They had, it was like a city within a city. But like, you were talking about Sandra's work, right, earlier. Like nobody talks about that,
Yeah.
Again, being in the parks and seeing people more recently, like Asia, like with Rage and, block club associations, watching people like gather momentum in their communities to try to fix things themselves, to be self-sufficient, to, speak truth to power, right, at city level and beyond. That was happening with Fifth City, right? And it's like completely just, we don't hear about it, right? So for me, like really archiving becomes this practice of honoring that history and then trying to bring it into the present, to be like, we need to acknowledge these things because they too have lessons for us to heed as we move forward and are doing many of the same things, right? Yeah.
And the tools and the technology that most folks have in their hand right now has really, it's accelerating at an accelerating rate. And in 10 or 15 years from now, there's going to be some teenagers who are going to stumble upon this talk, and maybe they're from Fifth City, and they're going to go, wow, honeypot performance, Google search. And they're going to stumble upon this archive that you're making right now, not just about your work, but about all the things we spoke about. And it is really important that we all leverage the technology that is there. Don't be scared of it. It's not bad. It's power. And, it's the one thing that gives me hope in this huge fight against fear, greed, and ignorance, that we have a tool that people didn't have yesterday. Just today, technology made a jump. And if you are scared of AI, get over it, because it's a tool and it can be used in many different ways. And not that I know what I'm talking about AI. I don't. Meida, thank you so much for joining us here on Collaboration Radio. Keep up the great work. And I'll look forward to coming out and seeing some honeypot in Fifth City very soon. I have one more plug I want to give. So is there any last words you want to say?
Just, check out honeypotperformance.org. We have a lot of stuff going on this year, so we welcome everybody to come out to Fifth City, to Garfield Park, And it's a beautiful church. Come get your spirit, come get your life, come make some art. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us. Priya Shah of The Simple Good will be our guest next week. And my guy John Corus is doing a special Google Meet about the last moments of Demetrius DeBose, a roundtable discussion. You could find him on Instagram at John Corus, Kouris. Demetrius was an All-American football player at Notre Dame who was murdered for being black in San Diego in the late 90s. And John is keeping that his brother's memory alive, and it's an important thing to do. We looped it? A shot at it? I got another shot at it. This is a double loop end. Okay, Maida, come on. We're going to do a little freestyle. It's the double loop end. It's a double loop end.
Of the show.
Of the show. Chicago. If you're on the radio, put your top down. If you're in the shower, I appreciate you listening to the show in the shower. That's pretty great.
The preceding program, Collaboraction Radio, is sponsored by Collaboraction, and to the extent applicable, their guests. The views and opinions expressed therein do not necessarily reflect those of NewsWeb Radio Company or its management.
Please join us Tuesday, March 19th for WCPT's primary election coverage. We will be giving you the latest updates